In this lesson, we're going to do a little bit more work with angles that are in radians, which I know you're not too very familiar with. So here we go. We talked in our previous lesson about how this is the unit circle in degrees, and then we generated that unit circle in radians. And if you didn't watch that previous video, go ahead and watch the first 2-1 video because that should help you. But here's the unit circle now in degrees and radians all the way around. So first of all, I want to figure out what quadrant these angles are in, and you don't even need to convert them or anything. You should hopefully just be able to kind of figure this out, but I'm going to blow that up so that you can see this a little better. We are at 21 pi over 10, and if you think of that as a mixed number, 21 tenths, this is the same really as 2 and 1/10 pi. Okay, it's positive. So if you think about that on our unit circle, there's 1 pi, there's 2 pi, and an extra 1/10 of a pi is not going to even make it to 2.5 pi. An extra 1/10 of a pi is going to end up right there somewhere, and so that happens to be in quadrant 1. Okay, the next one, negative 19 pi over 12, if you think about that as a mixed number, then this is the same as negative 1 and 7/12 of a pi. Okay, negative 1 and 7/12. Now it's negative, so you have to rotate the opposite direction. And so what will happen here is you'll have, here's negative 1 pi. 6/12 would be negative 1.5 pi. So I know I made it that far, so 7/12 is going to be somewhere right about there. Okay, that's in quadrant 1. The next one, negative 59 pi over 15. If I think of that as a mixed number, then that is negative 3 and 14/15 of a pi. Again, it's negative, so I need to rotate the opposite direction. So there's negative 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi. 14/15 is certainly more than half of a pi. In fact, 14/15 is darn close to 4 pi. So it's going to end up right about there, which is also quadrant 1. And by the way, if you don't remember your quadrants, I should probably tell you this. This is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, just to help you. All right, then 2.5 radians. 2.5 radians, if you do that. Notice this does not have the pi symbol in it, and when it does not have the pi symbol in it, you need to think of the unit circle then in decimals instead. So this is 0. This is up here is pi over 2, so that's 3.14 divided by 2 gives you 1.57 as a decimal. Right here is pi, which we know is 3.14 radians. Down here is 3 pi over 2, so 3 times 3.14 divided by 2 is going to give you 4.71 radians, and if you keep going around over here, if I go all the way around, 2 pi, or 2 times 3.14 is 6.28 if I go all the way around. So if I'm trying to figure out where 2.5 radians is, now it doesn't have the pi symbol in it, so I'm going to kind of use those blue numbers, and 2.5 is certainly more than 1.57, but less than 3.14, so that would end up then in quadrant 2. Okay, and that's how you need to think about that. Negative 6 radians then will rotate the opposite direction, and if I were to go positive 6 radians, it would be about right there, but it's negative, so I need to go the opposite direction. So I need to go like that, and that again will be in quadrant 1. Quadrant 1 seems to be a popular answer here. All right, next we're going to draw these angles. And we're not going to get a protractor out or anything. We're just going to kind of sketch them. Okay, so I want to draw the angle negative pi over 2. Again, I want you to always have a starting point like this, like the unit circle does. Positive pi over 2 would be right here if I rotate this way, but negative pi over 2, I'm going to go that same distance, but the opposite direction. So negative pi over 2, I want you to show me that you're going that direction, and you'll end up straight down. That's what that one would look like. 9 pi over 4 you should not see on your unit circle, so you might need to think about that as a mixed number as well. 9/4 is the same as 2 and 1/4 pi. Okay, so you'll start here, and then it's positive, so you'll rotate this direction. There's 1 pi, There's 2 pi, and an extra fourth of a pi puts you right there. Okay? Negative 13 pi over 3 is also not a number that you see on your unit circle, so you'll think of that as a mixed number. So that's negative 4 and 1/3 pi. So you'll start right here. It's negative, so you'll go 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, and an extra third of a pi is going to put you right about there. Okay? 31/6 as a mixed number is 5 and 1/6 pi. Again, you're going to start right here. So I go 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi, 5 pi, and an extra sixth of a pi is going to put me right about there. Okay, so just estimate these. And then these last two, again, do not have any pi symbols in them. And when they don't have pi symbols in them, I want you to think of that unit circle as decimals. So this would be 0 as I start, and 1.57, and 3.14, and 4.71. And then once I go all the way around, 2 pi is 6.28. Okay, so 2 radians, is going to be a little bit more, partway between 1.57 and 3.14, a little closer to the 1.57. So it will look something like that, and you need to make sure you showed me that you rotate the positive direction. And then negative 5, if I went positive 5 radians, I would go here and go about that far to get to 5 radians, a little more than 4.71. But it's negative, so I need to make sure that I rotate in the opposite direction. So I'll go all the way around and end up right about there. Okay? All right, and then lastly, we're going to work on converting between degrees and radians. So if you're in degrees and you want to get to radians, you're going to multiply by pi over 180. If you think back to your chemistry days, I think of the pi part as the radians part and the 180 as the degrees part. And you want the same units kitty corner from each other. If you're in radians and you want to go to degrees, then you're going to multiply by 180 over pi. Okay? So here we go. I am first of all giving you an angle in degrees. It's 214 degrees. I want to get that 2 radians. So I am going to multiply by pi over 180. Again, the 180 part is the degree part, and I want degrees kitty corner from each other. Okay? So first of all, I'm going to get an exact answer. And to get an exact answer, what I want you to do is ignore the pi for right now and simply put this into your calculator. 214 divided by 180, and then hit math, and then enter. And what will happen is your calculator will reduce that fraction for you. And when you put that into your calculator and reduce the fraction, your calculator should spit out 107 over 90, and then obviously put the pi back in. So this is 107 pi over 90. If we do 214 divided by 180 and then hit math, enter. This right here is the exact answer. And then you can get the decimal answer if you actually multiply that out. So 107 times pi, so now I'll put the pi in there, 107 times pi divided by 90, and you should get 3.74. Please give me 2 decimal places. And I should actually label these as radians, but that's how you do that one. Okay, the next one is in radians, and I want to get it to degrees. So if it's in radians, then I have the radians on the top right now, which means when I multiply, I want the radian part on the bottom so that they're kitty corner from each other, and the degree part on the top. What will happen is the pi's will just simply drop out. And again, you'll have 5 times 180 divided by 7. Hit math, enter. See what your calculator does for you, but that should be 900 over 7 degrees if you want the exact answer. If you want the rounded answer, you're going to take 900 divided by 7 then and get 128.57. Okay, and that's in degrees. And then lastly, Same thing, I have an answer that's in radians. Notice it does not have a pi symbol in it, and you can't just write the pi symbol in it just because it has the words radian behind it. Radian is just a unit, so if you put the pi symbol in it, that's like multiplying by 3.14, and you can't do that. So you're simply going to multiply by 180 over pi. When you take 31 times 180, you get 5,500, 5,580 over pi, obviously. And again, this first answer is exact. Okay, and then if it wants it as a decimal, you can go ahead and take 5,580 divided by pi, and you should get 1,776.17 degrees. And I should label those. And this, of course, would be rounded. All right, and that should do it for this quick lesson.